Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this. I want, you to set the right mentality for the fan base here.
Love it.
As whether it's Mickey Joseph, whoever it is, as the years start coming on, 7, 8, 9 wins a year, you almost have to be sort of okay with that. The one thing that I want to make sure that a lot of fans, a lot of fair weather fans especially, don't start jumping into this. And here's the reality of the situation, right? I love watching all of college football that I can. I try to watch as much football as I possibly can. I watch a lot of different teams. I watch a lot of different leagues. And the one thing I can tell you is when you do that, you get a chance to see, okay, what do these really, really good teams do that maybe Nebraska isn't doing? And when you look at a team, maybe let's just throw out a name here, right? Arkansas, Sam Pittman, right? They're not beating, A&M, they're not every year anyways, right? They're not beating Georgia or Alabama. But, when you compare where they were at a couple of years ago before Sam Pittman took over, and they were one of the worst teams in the entire country, let alone the SEC, to where they're at now. I mean, it's night and day different. And I guarantee a lot of Arkansas fans, they wouldn't trade Sam Pittman for anything, regardless. I mean, if he, again, he may win 8, 9 games this year,
right,
and that may be the best case scenario that Arkansas will ever hit. But I'll tell you, they'll be happier to use an Arkansas term. They'll be happier than a pig in shit. You know what I mean? They really will.
No, you just drew me into the thing I want to say to. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm a pretty blunt person, but when it comes to like Nebraska football, I've been around a while, 30 years of being a fan, right? Just a little kid growing up in the 90s. Man, Nebraska fans, as much as I love them, and I do to death, we're the most loyal fan base. We're the most supporting fan base I've ever seen in any sport. I don't even think I have to say it. Nebraska football knows this as Nebraska kids or Nebraska fans, or whether you're 37 or older or younger, it doesn't matter. We don't have a pro football team here, right? So like Nebraska football is everything. It is the end all be all, right? And I can say this as being a Nebraska fan, and that's the way I look at it. I have a pro team. They're trash. The Dolphins are 3-1 right now, but that's amazing for them. But long story short, 25 years of shit. But at the end of the day, my thing is with Nebraska fans, you guys got to be, and I'm not saying this as a chat, I'm saying as Nebraska fan base, like I feel like 50% of it is like, why does everybody think every year is going to be 12-1 or 11-2, or, we're going to win, we're going to go 10-3 and compete for a Big Ten title? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. And I feel like, and I'm just saying this, I know a lot of people here, I'm from here, played at a high level. Like, it's like everybody thinks that, hey, Nebraska every year, like we get it together, we're 10-3. No, it's that's not the case. Like you brought it up, Christian. You're like, it's there's a difference between reality and like a fantasy, man. Like watch Georgia play, watch Oklahoma, Oklahoma, excuse me, like Alabama play, Ohio State. Watch those teams play. It's a different football that's being played right now. It might be the football that what you're seeing if you do watch those games. It's probably like what Nebraska played in the 90s. We're not that team anymore. We're not the team of the early 2000s. We're not that team of the 80s. We're not that team of the 70s with Bob Devaney. We're not those teams anymore. You don't get great in 1 year. It takes years to get there. Look at what Nick Saban's done with Bama. I mean, it took him years to get there. He was super successful at LSU, won a title, then went to the Dolphins, and then came back. It still takes time. Clemson scattered a few national titles in there. LSU, whatever. I mean, it doesn't, Ohio State. I can name a ton of those teams, but like it doesn't happen overnight. And that's my biggest thing with Nebraska fan base. Just quit just don't watch Nebraska. Watch other teams too play. And I have a big problem with Nebraska fans on that. And I'm a Nebraska fan. It seems like 90% of the people I talk to is like, well, oh yeah, we're still there. No, we're not there. I mean, look, for example, and I hate to bring this up, and this hurts me to say this. Adrian Martinez last week torched Oklahoma. I mean, you couldn't add a bigger like knife in the back after we got blown out by Oklahoma to a kid that we had as a starting quarterback for 4 years. Just torch him. You know what I mean? A week later, and then he just went off the day. Like it starts with coaching. It starts with an organization. It starts up top. it takes time. And I hate to say that. Everybody's like, well, time, like whatever. You know, we've been in Nebraska for how many years, and like we should like get it together. I agree with you, but Scott needed to go. And I don't want to piss anybody off in this chat, but he needed to go. He did. If you were doing a job, Christian, at 30% and getting 15 mil or 8 mil or 10 mil or whatever you're getting paid, you were paid here to win, right? Just like my job. If I did my job at 30%, yeah, well, Chris, we're sorry, bro. You're done. You had 4.5 years to do it, and you didn't get it done. So my point being is, like, I need Nebraska fans to, like, just give it some time, be patient, see where we're at, honestly, in a bigger perspective of the college landscape of football right now. I mean, if we had 11-win season this year, look at our schedule. Iowa's not that good. Michigan, I really don't know what to think about Michigan right now. That's our best team I think we play in the whole schedule. I mean, how good are they? Are we better than Ohio State? Are we really better than Alabama? No, obviously not. But I'm just saying, like, even if we would have started off 5-0, where are we really at, Christian? What do you think? If we were 5-0 right now, man, are you saying national title? Are you saying, hey, you know, we're competing at that upper tier, you know, playoff type team? I mean, and I know there's a lot of alternatives to that, but you know what I mean? Like, I mean, would you really say that, like, look, we beat Oklahoma by 3? Well, look at Oklahoma the last 2 weeks. You know what I mean? They got blown out by TCU today, just blown out of the water. I watched that game, the whole game. Last week, K-State comes in, just kicks their ass. You know what I mean? Like, where are you at as far as, I guess, Christian, I got to turn this around and ask you, like, if Nebraska went 5-0, where would you be? Like, would you be like, oh, Nebraska, you know, come on, man. Like, I mean, you got to take into perspective, and I think Nebraska fans kind of like get out of that realm, even though we're not 5-0, obviously, but like we're 2-3 or whatever. Like people just make so much of like this small realm, like where you don't look at the bigger landscape of college football and how crazy it is right now. Like teams like TCU, teams like what was Kansas right now? Are they 5-0, Christian?
Kansas is, yeah, they're undefeated. And that's the craziest part of this. Believe it or not, somebody in the Big Ten from the state of Kansas may win the Big Ten this year, right? I mean, Jesus, you know, coming into this year, I never would have said that or thought that. I had a podcast, and one of the crazy hot takes, I called it Hunt's Hot Takes, right? Because my last name's Hunt. But one of the things I talked about was
Kyle Biggs. By the way,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Kyle Biggs, what he says right there. Perfect. You know what I mean? He said odds Nebraska makes a bowl game. Rutgers, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Iowa are all very variable, especially if we play it with energy like tonight. I agree with that. Sorry, not to interrupt you, Christian. I just thought that was a very good point. You know, the odds that Nebraska makes a bowl game, I think it's actually pretty good this year. I really do. I mean, you look at our schedule, not to overturn you, Christian, but like, I think we do. I think we have a chance. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that what we want this year? Like, wasn't that the expectation this year? Was the expectation winning a national title this year? I don't think it was. I think our expectation as a Nebraska fan, me being a lifelong one, like, man, I just wanted a bowl game. You know what I mean? I wanted a shot to improve from last year's, right? 3 and 4, or 4 wins, whatever it is, to get a shot to play in a bowl game. You know, and prove that to most of America, hey, we're still relevant, right? And then build upon that next year. So I think that's kind of the point. And I'm so sorry I cut you off, Christian. I really am. But I thought he made a really good point there about Nebraska, where they're at as far as a national level. So go ahead. Sorry, man. No,
brother, you're all good listening. You know, that goes back to what we were talking about when we were talking about, you know, that's what's still in front of us. I mean, that's still an option, believe it or not, even at the lowest point of this year, which, again, the lowest point was we thought, hey, shit, we're going 1-11, right? What I was saying simply was, you know, before the season started, you know, I put a podcast out there. It was a hot take that I had seen that Adrian Martinez could be an all Big Ten quarterback, or sorry, not an all Big Ten, all Big 12 quarterback. And, you know, one of the things that I talked about was Adrian Martinez, and you look at Adrian Martinez stats compared to Casey Thompson's stats, right? And you go back and you look at them, and if I'm not mistaken, Martinez had way more passing yards. However, Casey Thompson had way more passing touchdowns. Total touchdowns wise, it was only separated, I think, by like 3 touchdowns. because Martinez was the better athlete. He ran more touchdowns. He had like 14 touchdowns compared to like, it was something crazy, like 10 rushing touchdowns or something like that. And Martinez had like, vice versa. Thompson had like, I want to say it was like 20 some odd touchdowns. It was one of those things where he was a better thrower than he was a runner, obviously. And I said that in the year. I said, look, Martinez is going to a league where he's not, the Big 12 is not known for defense compared to the Big 10. He's going to an easier league where he's going to have more time. When you have more time, you can run the ball a little bit more. He can do whatever he wants back there, right? So Martinez, and he got banged up at Nebraska. I mean, he really did. I mean, how many games do you remember where Martinez was just getting the shit kicked out of him because the line couldn't block for him, and they were trying to run that sort of read zone run option game, and he just kept getting banged on, and that's what really hurt him, I feel like, throughout the year. And that kind of it's kind of like being a very physical point guard in the NBA, right? And you got to kind of be like Derrick Rose, and you kind of got to go drive the paint and get dirty and do all these sort of things. And then the coach says, "Well, I want you to be a 3-point shooter, when the game's on the line." But for 2.5 quarters, you know what I mean? You're sort of trying to go inside and be dirty and sort of distribute the ball and not really get into a rhythm. And then, all of a sudden now the game's on the line and I want you to sort of do something, right? And I think that's kind of what the whole thing with Martinez was, and listen, I know that sounds crazy because, by God, if you can't tell, I was pretty much the Uncle Rico, in Napoleon Dynamite of basketball here, right? If coach would have put me in, by God, we would have won a national championship, let alone state, son. But no, I think that it's one of those things when we kind of get back into it. I think as far as Nebraska, and I think the question you were asking me is, let me ask you this. Just I want you to fully ask me this question here. You were making the statement there about if Nebraska was 5-0, right? If Nebraska was 5-0, where would I sort of rank them at right now with the season still ahead of us, right?
Yep. No, I'm going to take you there, Christian. I'm going to put you on the hot seat, bro. This is just a podcast. I can say what I want, right? I honestly, like, if Nebraska would be 5-0 right now, regardless who the hell is the head coach, right? Whether it's Mickey or whether it was still Scott. If it was still Scott, we have even more hype, right? Like, he's turned it around, whatever. I don't give a shit. My point being is, if we were 5-0 right now, look at the teams that we played. I mean, Oklahoma. Can you right now tell me, after Oklahoma the last 2 weeks, like, even if they beat us, like they kicked their ass, and I was at that game, and it was, Jesus, man, it was bad, bro. I don't know what else to tell you. It was bad. It's the first game I've ever left before the game ended, to be honest with you. And that's an honest God truth. And you put me on the camera for saying that, but like, so we're 5-0. You know what I mean? Where we at, Christian? Where do you really think if we were 5-0? I know this is hypothetical. We're not 5-0. We're 2-3. But like, would it really change much right now as far as like landscape, as far as like where we're at? Yeah, we probably have some notoriety. Hey, Nebraska's 5-0. I mean, I don't think we'd be ranked in the top 25. I don't, because Oklahoma's lost the last 2 games, right? They've gotten their asses kicked, by the way. This isn't just like Oklahoma got beat by a last-second touchdown. I mean, they got their ass handed to them today. If you watched that game today, anybody that watched that game today, it was on CBS. Got their shit kicked in. I mean, it was ridiculous by TCU, who a lot of people on the team think that are that good. That's where I'm at. Like, it's like, it doesn't really matter to me as a Nebraska fan, even though we're 2-3. It's like, damn, like, we have a chance now. 2 weeks off. We beat Indiana. We got a couple games coming up where I think we're the better team, right? I mean, honestly, if you don't think we're the better team, I think you're crazy. But better players. We can win a few here, get that record turned around, make a bowl game, keep that momentum going. You know what I mean? I don't want to sit here, and I'm sure most Nebraska fans like want that, but like, I'm being honest about this. Like, we have a chance to do a little bit here, and that honestly, it doesn't matter who the head coach is. I could care less like about that part of it. It's like where the team is headed. You know what I mean? Next year, we're playing some young guys. We're building for next season. Whoever that coach is, it is who it is. I don't have a say in that. You don't have a say in that. None of us do. But like, we have a little bit of momentum, and like, build upon that instead of the shitty start that we had this season. Can we get over the hump? So yeah, Christian, not to take up your question here, but like, if we were 5-0, Christian, mean, do you really think like even if we did beat Oklahoma right now, like does it really mean? You know what I mean? Like I know that like the 5-0 sounds cute and all that, but I mean, look at Oklahoma in like the last 2 games. I mean, like it's a Big 12. Like, does it carry any weight towards you? I mean, as far as like us being a powerhouse, like getting us to a playoff, you know what I mean? Like, would it really change when we play Wisconsin, Iowa, those teams, Michigan here in a couple weeks? That's what I'm asking you, bro.